Welcome. Today we're going to discuss the Wharton Women. My name's Diane Sharp. I'm the Director of Admissions for the Wharton MBA program for executives here in Philadelphia. With me today we have one alumna and a current second-year student. Our alumna who graduated in May is Caroline Wyspianski, and our current second-year student is Christine Johnson. I'm going to pose some questions to them, but I want to encourage everyone here today to post questions online as they arise, and we will also pose them to Caroline and Christine. All right, so we'll start with Caroline, if you wouldn't mind giving us your background, your career, and what led you to Wharton.
Okay, so my name's Caroline Wyspianski. I'm a vice president at Glenmede Trust, which is a financial services organization. My background is predominantly in finance. I, however, did get an undergraduate degree in English literature and political science. So I always knew working in finance that I wanted to give myself some more hard education in the world of finance, and I thought, you know, what better than to go to Wharton to get a finance degree. So that's how I ended up applying for my MBA. And it's propelled me from a previous role to the vice president role that I have now at Glenmede.
Great, thank you. And Christine, if you would give us your background.
Yes, absolutely. So I am currently working as the global digital marketing leader at DuPont, but my background is in advertising. And like Caroline, I wanted to diversify my skill set, and I didn't have any experience in finance or even just general management. So I consult with different businesses at DuPont on their digital marketing strategy, and I decided to get my MBA because I felt it was really important for me to understand the other factors that drive their business decisions so that I could have a more holistic point of view and ultimately move beyond digital marketing into other areas of business management.
Great. So as you realized you wanted to earn your MBA, what drew you to Wharton in particular?
So being in finance, the reputation of Wharton obviously is excellent for finance, but also proximity for me was important because of, you know, I have family in this area and my family situation, but also, you know, what I researched led me to realize that if I did an executive MBA, I would be short on time, of course, because time is the most valuable resource you have during the program. And the way that the Wharton program is geared toward making sure that when you show up for a weekend for your executive MBA experience, everything is taken care of for you. So your hotel room is booked, your meals are taken care of, the entire experience is all packaged such that you can just show up and have the learning experience that you need to have and the networking experience that you want to have. Of course, Wharton has an excellent reputation for finance, but also for using its network. So those are the largest factors for me when choosing Wharton.
Yeah. I would say a lot of those were also important to me. I live in Philadelphia, so the location of Wharton was very convenient. I will say the brand and the reputation of Wharton was a major factor in me deciding ultimately to apply to the school. I also knew that doing an executive MBA, I liked the residential aspect of the program. There were other options out there that were more day programs, more flexible night type programs, and I knew that if I was going to be juggling work, family, and an MBA, I wanted to be able to really get the most out of that MBA network, and I really liked the way Wharton structured the Friday to Saturday residential program, knowing that it would be a time of intense networking, collaboration, and bonding with my classmates.
Great, thank you. And obviously, we have you both here today on your lunch hour, and you're both local, so we could do that, and we appreciate that. But you also have classmates that do come from quite far. Can you share any examples of that? Women in particular, maybe.
Right, so obviously most of the people in the class are not from the Philadelphia area. And so, you know, many are from the Eastern Seaboard because there is a West Coast program available as well. But we had many classmates from as far as Texas and Montreal, Florida. So for them, the experience did involve commuting, but they loved it, especially people from New York. They all took the same train together, and the commuting part of it became part of the experience for them. So although some people, coming from Cleveland, et cetera, found it to be a little bit of a challenge, they certainly thought it was well worthwhile. This is the type of school that you'd be willing to travel to.
I definitely heard the same thing. And I don't know about you living in Philadelphia, there were times where I thought, I kind of want to go back to New York because it looks like
they're having a good time.
Wharton continues. Yeah, then we will joke that there's an airport contingent and that aspect just continues. So
that's right. Yeah. But that's an important part of the experience because you learn a lot from having so many people with diverse backgrounds in their occupation, as well as that geographical diversity. There are several international students, and even having the geographic diversity in the U.S. is very important.
I
agree. Well, you mentioned how the staff is supportive, so you guys can focus on your studies. How do you line up support from your employers and your significant others? How did that go for you guys? Why don't you start, Christine?
Yeah, that can't be underestimated, the importance of lining up that support. And I appreciated that Wharton, the executive program, made it part of the application process that you had that support before you even pursued application. I remember thinking, oh, I can figure that out once I get started. But I was so glad that once I was admitted, I'd already lined up my employer and my spouse and family to be supportive. My employer was extremely supportive, and they still are. I find that really nothing has changed about my job, but my team knows that I'm going to be gone every other Friday. And I've been able to manage both of those, luckily having a really understanding employer. My spouse and I agreed that we would divide up different projects at home differently. And I'll tell anyone that asks, I was able to do this because he was so supportive. And I find that when you share your goals, and my employer and my spouse and family knew that having an MBA from Wharton was critical for my future goals, and they were going to be a part of that. And I felt that every step of the way. So Wharton helped me have those maybe difficult conversations that I might not have chosen to have as early, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo that. The only thing I'd add is that it's important to start early in the process with your employer. Don't spring it on them, and make sure that you have a solid, well thought out argument for why it's mutually beneficial to the employer and to you, and to help you out. I'll just say that my employer did benefit from a lot of what I was learning in the classroom, and also we were able to, in many instances, incorporate issues or problems that that one was having at work into a project that you could, take that problem, use it as a case study, and solve the issue or concern. And you had some of the top professionals and experts in the world in the Wharton faculty, professors, helping to guide you through the difficulties that you're having at work. So it actually is mutually beneficial to your employer and to you.
And most of what we're talking about applies whether you're male or female, but there is one particular situation that would only apply to a female. Caroline, if you would share, you actually had a baby during the program.
I did.
So how did that impact what you were going through?
Right. So just to lay the groundwork, I entered the program. I applied to the program not pregnant. I entered the program 2.5 months pregnant. So I had the baby about 7 months into the program. So, how did it impact the program? My advice is to speak to somebody who's had a baby if you can beforehand. I did that. I spoke to a woman who was a year ahead of me in the program and had had a baby. And, she said it's possible, and that's what I'd say to you. It's definitely possible. It takes some planning. My advice is to, you have a small learning team at Wharton that you work with. It's about 5 people that are that are assigned to you, and you're in a close knit group. And especially the first year, most of your group projects would be with this group. So I was very upfront with that group ahead of time and said, I'm pregnant. I realize that this will be impacting the group. I made sure that I was more involved while I was pregnant and had more free time. I took a leadership position in several projects that our team did because I knew that once I had the baby, it would be difficult for me to do that. So, planning ahead like that, letting your professors know, things like that. So, how did it impact me? Well, I'm sure it made it more challenging, probably because I didn't ingest any caffeine or alcohol during it as well. So you know, I always said I was at a disadvantage during exams because I wasn't on 3 cups of coffee. But no, but you're more tired when you're pregnant, obviously, and so you have to juggle. You know, it's a struggle to juggle resources for everybody. Sleep, family, work, and Wharton are the things that you have to juggle. So obviously sleep is one that gets impacted. So you know, you just have to plan and become a good user of your resources and your time. But it's certainly possible. You know, the 3-ish weeks right after I had the baby were sort of off limits for me. So I planned ahead for that, and I did work ahead, and then you know, after that I found myself able to find time for everything that I needed to do. So it's possible.
Great. So there are also statistically fewer women in MBA programs, full-time, but particularly executives. So how would you say that impacted the dynamics of the program in class and out of class?
Well, I think Caroline and I were talking a little bit before we started, and we had slightly different even statistics. Caroline's class had significantly fewer women than even mine did, which was still fewer women than men. And so my observation was that, you know, right from the beginning, you know, you go into the program knowing what the statistics are, and I think that the women do seek each other out. As Caroline mentioned, another important social component, though, is the learning team. So versus just starting WEMBA and thinking, I'm a woman, I need to find other women, I made it a priority to get to know my learning team really well. There were 2 other women in it. And I found that having that really strong bond with the men and women in my learning team really helped me then branch out socially and discover my network. And then as we all sort of got comfortable with the program, women networking opportunities started to come up. It helped actually that our social chair was a woman, and it just seemed that naturally from that, a lot of other events emerged that were you know, either focused on women or they ended up always being spearheaded by women. So I thought that it was never really a sense of women and men. It was very well integrated, but I knew that I could look around and see many other women that were kind of juggling maybe the same challenges that I was, and I felt very well supported from that regard. Your experience?
Yeah, so I agree with that, and I also think that because we had a smaller number of women than men, we were a tight-knit group, and you know, we had a women WEMBA 38 email group, and we still do to this day, and we have many reunions, and it made us a really tight-knit group of women, and you can be supported by the women, and you have that experience in common, you know, having a husband at home versus a wife, you know, and it's a different experience for a woman. So it was a very good group of people to rely on. So the other thing I would say is that I work in finance, so I'm used to having mostly men around me. It's still true to this day. So for some people, myself included, it wouldn't be that big of a dynamics change. But I know for some people, especially in different industries where it's a little more women heavy, it was a bigger shift for them. So I think it's all relative.
Good. We're starting to get some questions from the folks that are observing us today, so I'll go to those and keep them coming. Would you say there might be any specific advantages to being a woman here?
Yeah, absolutely. The tight-knit network. It's like being in a small club in a larger group, but also, you know, it is a challenging time in the life of a woman. It's typically a time when women are having children and are, you know, just juggling a lot at home. So I think if you're able to are willing to go through that, it's certainly possible. But if you're willing to go through that and you come out the other end, you survive it, and you have that story to tell, I think it's going to make you a much stronger person. And it's proof to anyone that you're able to achieve a lot and you know, rise to the occasion and take on challenges and come through it. So if you were ever worried that your employer thought maybe you couldn't handle work after having a baby, you could say, well, I did Wharton and work and had a baby, so I can handle it.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. One of my strategies and reasons for pursuing the degree in the executive format was I thought if I can handle this, I can certainly handle anything. It's excellent for time management, and I think being a woman has given me opportunities to bond with members of other classes. I mean, opportunities like this. I don't know if there's a webinar to talk about your experience being a man in Wharton, and I really enjoy recruiting events. I've been able to meet members of the class that just started, and I just find that women are just very social by nature, whether you're introverted or extroverted. I've been able to have some really genuine conversations with people that start with this topic but then move into more genuine types of relationships. So I just think it's been very organic and positive for my experience.
And you both mentioned how it is a challenge, obviously. Any tips that you can share on how you make it work, how you can do all those things, work and family and life, for a couple years?
Well, you're juggling the baby as well, but I'll just say, I think being realistic about what you have to get done, the first maybe semester when you start Wharton, a lot of people, I've noticed in my learning team will say, I can't really do much this week. Work is crazy. Work is crazy. And then all of a sudden you step back and say, okay, we're all working and we're all going to be working for the rest of this program. And so I find that just being really upfront and realistic, most of all with yourself, of what you have to get done is is really the best way to start. So I found that I just needed to be more organized. I needed to be very honest with my team about what I could and could not get done. And I also just tried to adopt the mantra of, getting something done quickly is better than waiting to make it perfect and not getting it done at all. So I've just become a more realistic employee, student, wife, because I've realized the importance of getting things done, following up on my commitments and moving forward is more important than trying to make them perfect, because I don't have time for that anymore. So.
Exactly. So prioritization is key, and you will become extremely good at it. And it's like anything, it requires practice. So in the beginning, you'll not be as good at it, but you'll learn over time what is important and to let go of the things that are just not as important. I apologize to my future daughter. Your baby book is not going to be immaculate and perfect, but mommy has a Wharton degree in finance. So, it's all relative, and I do feel like I didn't miss out on anything that was important, because you learn truly, once you have a squeeze on your resources, what is and what is not important in your life.
And it was fun seeing your daughter at graduation, too. Yes. That was very nice.
She was happy to be there.
So we have, it looks like some entrepreneurs online. So I don't know whether that would impact you, but do you feel that Wharton can help women who are entrepreneurs?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the entrepreneurship program at Wharton is second to none, I'd say. It's excellent. There's a whole entrepreneurship division. There's a degree in entrepreneurship, so you can take classes that are tailored specifically for that. There's also an entrepreneurship initiative, which there's a speaker series basically as a part of that, and entrepreneurs who have actually gone out there in the world and have done their entrepreneurial venture and have been successful are actually there, and they speak to you and take questions. There are dinners with entrepreneurs. So it's a very big focus here at Wharton, very big. And I think it's one of the best platforms for starting that you could have. There's even a class about creating your own actual object. So a design course. So several people are designing, more efficient, irons to, the latest tech device, etc. And you actually physically build that. So if you have an idea, it's something that you can explore through case studies, through various entrepreneurial classes, and then you'll get exposure to actual entrepreneurs that can help you along.
Yeah. It's also great for staffing. So I'm not an entrepreneur. I would barely call myself entrepreneurial, but I have had several job opportunities come up from either my classmates that came to Wharton or discovered once they were at Wharton that they wanted to launch a business, and also entrepreneurs from previous Wharton classes. And I think this is where the executive program has an advantage, because it is a smaller network. I find that I'm tapped into the broader Wharton network, but specifically the executive. So I find entrepreneurship abound in this program.
Absolutely,
for sure.
and having a class that's limited to about 100 people means that you know every one of your classmates. It's just the right size for that, and I personally feel comfortable calling on every single one of those people, and almost every industry you could think of is represented by those people. So they do a really good job putting together the class.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And has that applied bi-coastally as well? There was, I know many of the women online today are from the West Coast, just finishing breakfast, but I think the same dynamics are happening out there as well.
It almost seems to me that the West Coast has even more of an entrepreneurial spirit. And so I didn't realize this when I started at Wharton. There have been some really great collaboration opportunities between the two coasts. I recently went on a trip to Indonesia with members of the East Coast class and the West Coast class, and that just doubled our network. And I'm just amazed at the creativity and the business skills of my classmates. So I think that it's a great incubator, to use a common phrase, for those types of endeavors.
So can you give examples of how your Wharton education has already impacted you in your career? And I know you still have a 1.5 semesters left, Christine, but if anything has happened that you've been able to deal with a challenge at work or transition.
Absolutely. So there are several reasons that people enter the program, and all of them are good and legitimate. Mine was to not to shift gears and change careers necessarily, but to propel myself along in the world of finance. So I was able to use Wharton and the career services team, which is excellent, to search for a job at the end of my Wharton experience, and I did use career services to help me along in that process, and did go through the interview process. I ended up at Glenmede, which is really one of the best companies for my field that you can be in. So I do feel as though Wharton is the reason that I was able to achieve the role and at the company that I wanted to be in.
Yeah, I've definitely been using it within my job. You know, I mentioned I'm specifically managing digital marketing, and I've been able to understand broader elements of corporate strategy, which actually allowed me to get put on a special project focusing in that area. And it just helps me understand how my company operates. So I'm at DuPont. There's a lot of interesting investor activity happening right now. I would not have really been able to understand a lot of these initiatives, and I find that as an employee, I'm able to break this down a lot better, you know, which is just kind of an extra benefit aside from the hard skills that I've acquired.
And could you share why you knew it was the right time to get your MBA? Is there an ideal time? Did you weigh that at all?
I would say that there's no perfect time. No. You'll always find an excuse to not do it, right? Next year will be better at work, or, you know, wait until after I have my children, which is what I hear a lot as well, because people ask me, you know, how did you possibly have a child during the program? And I would say, now is the time to do it, because it never gets easier. You'll become more entrenched at your work. You know, having a 2-year-old is not easier than having a newborn. Having a 6-year-old is even less easy, because they're, you know, fully entrenched in their activities, etc., and living their own life. So I would say the earlier the better, absolutely. You know, run, don't walk.
Yeah, I wished I'd started earlier, and I think when I ultimately made the decision, I decided I'm a busy person. I'm going to be busy for the next 2 years. I may as well be getting my MBA. And every semester that passed, I looked back and said, I'm so glad I started then. And I would say, you know, in 2 years from now, you wish you started now. So give yourself as long a runway as possible to take advantage of your degree. If you wait too much longer, there's just factually fewer years that you can take advantage of it, and let it be an opportunity to learn how to hone your prioritization skills. But if you're thinking about it now, you won't stop thinking about it a year from now, so get started.
Mm-hmm. And if any of you are wondering whether you'd be a fit for the executive versus our full-time program, we're happy to have that conversation. You do need to have some significant experience, but we do have folks here who are maybe junior management level. Again, as long as you're happy in your career trajectory and you're ripe for that MBA, you know, let's have that discussion. Call myself in Philadelphia, Diane Sharp, or Kathy Lilligren in San Francisco, and we can flesh that out as well, and we'll put you in touch with current students or alumni who can help guide you as well. So would you be able to say that the program changed you You've said professionally. In any other way, perhaps, as an individual?
I just have found it to be transformational. It helped me recognize skills I had, but maybe wasn't fully capitalizing on. It's just made me more appreciative of diversity, and diversity in terms of career paths, choices, ways of getting things done. And I find that I've been, as a result of taking leadership classes, working on different teams, I find that I'm a better listener, a better communicator, and I just have a more total sense of kind of my role in the world and kind of the types of relationships I want to form as I move forward.
The biggest problem with getting the Wharton Executive MBA is that once it's over, the world that you lived in before you had the degree seems small, and now the world seems huge and you want to just be a part of it. So looking for the next big thing in your life, looking for the next opportunity, keeping the pace up that you had during the program becomes your focus. And for me, as much as you struggle during the program to keep up with everything, the biggest problem is what next afterward. So what you used to think was enough will never be enough again.
Which does lead to another question that was posted online. Had your eyes been open to maybe other avenues along the way as well? Or can you share instances of classmates changing paths?
I think that some people come to Wharton knowing that they want to make a shift. And those people, you watch them make the shift. I also find that, and someone predicted this for me, that you reach a point in the Wharton experience where all of a sudden, even if you had come expecting to acquire certain skills that would enhance where you are in your current career, just as a result of being with such a diverse network of professionals, being exposed to all these different topics, I've seen so many people say, this isn't what I thought I wanted to do when I got here. Quite frankly, I didn't even know this career existed, but now that I've been exposed to it, I'm going to make a shift, or I'm going to try to do that. So I've watched a number of my classmates go through the recruitment process that Caroline mentioned, making very drastic switches in their careers. But there's an equal number that are going into much more senior levels of management in their company, moving from, say, marketing to strategy, sales, into operations management. So I'd say it's all possible. I've been amazed at what the Wharton name, aside from just the educational advantages, can open from different career doors.
It's very true. I think for me, what I've noticed, the shift in myself, is that I didn't even know about the importance of, say, the strategy team at a company, or, what it meant to be, a management professional before I started here. And, I've had exposure, to physicians and Navy SEALs and, finance professionals, but also marketing people, and just such a wide variety of people. So it's really opened my eyes to what they do, why they're important, and it made me realize that I am more interested in business strategy and the strategic initiatives that are happening in my own company. So I've gotten more involved with that because I have realized I'm drawn to it just through taking the classes and speaking to people who do it. So it is almost like the world's largest career fair right before your eyes at any given moment.
Yeah, really good point.
So we've just got a couple questions left. We're wrapping it up, so post any that you've thought of. We'd like to see how the Wharton, brand impacted you. Have you noticed how the world looks at you differently yet?
Yes, very differently, especially in the world of finance, but I think it's true for everybody in all of their fields. The designation of Wharton MBA is something that you'll carry for the rest of your life. It's not something that is a boost to your resume for a year. It's something that you'll always carry with you, and there's really not a better reputation in the world of MBAs than the Wharton MBA. So I think it's something that has changed the way that people view me. And no, more importantly than that, it's changed the way I view myself.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because I did it. I went through the program, I was admitted, and, there's always a joke that nobody here ever feels like they belong, right? But there comes a point at which you realize I do belong, I can do it. And having that self-confidence and having, the degree is something that is almost priceless.
I couldn't say it better. She nailed it.
Could you share a particular class that maybe, other than the core curriculum, everyone's taking the same curriculum the first year in your elective, something that you chose that surprised you, or you didn't think you would have chosen all along, that impacted you somehow?
Right, so for me it was the strategy classes that I mentioned, and also marketing. I was really, there you go, yeah. I just was required to take it the first year, so that's how I got the exposure, thank goodness, because otherwise I wouldn't have known that that was something that interested me. So I took as many of those electives as I could after that first year.
I kind of took the same approach, but it played out differently for me. Everyone always says, oh, you must be majoring in marketing. Aren't you taking marketing research? And I said, I came to Wharton to learn, to expand myself as much as I could. And, I felt a little, not disadvantaged when I started, but I do not have a finance background. I felt that, when I took my first accounting class, I liken it to learning physics in Japanese. Not only was the subject challenging for me, the language was totally foreign as well. So I measure myself in terms of how much I've grown. I think what struck me the most, not just from topics, was I was put into a marketing team. It was the first time I was going to be working on a project not with my traditional learning team. And I'd heard these stories of, oh my goodness, this is so much work. You have all these additional calls. And I just kind of dove into it head first. I raised my hand to be the leader of that team. And up until then, I think I'd sort of taken a secondary role in a lot of my team projects, and that was a huge moment for me to realize I can lead in very ambiguous circumstances. I can turn a dreaded class into one that's my favorite, and I have used that so many times. When I see a void of leadership, I'm so much more comfortable in stepping in and saying, I'm going to give this a try. So it's been so eye-opening in ways I didn't even fully expect.
And having that Wharton degree and being in, a larger meeting gives you the confidence to be, the dumbest one in the room and ask the questions that, you wouldn't normally ask. You would say to yourself, well, I know that I'm a smart person and that I understand things, so I'm going to ask the question that I'm going to feel comfortable asking a clarification question. So it just gives you a lot of confidence.
The smartest people in our class always ask the most questions, too, I've noticed. So.
Good, thanks. I'd like to leave today asking both of you if you could share any wisdom on how the women looking at us today should approach the admissions process. What strategy do you suggest they take?
I think I would say be honest with yourself. Does an MBA play a critical role in your future? It's okay if you don't know exactly where you're going to go with it, but I had decided that if it got me to a certain job, either way, the MBA was going to help me acquire skills that I felt I could not be successful without. It is a lot of work, so if you're not positive about it, maybe talk to others that you trust that can help you think through it. And then I would say, commit yourself 100%. Don't be afraid of taking the GMAT. Don't be afraid of having those conversations because you will find the time, you will find a way to achieve. So I would say be sure it's something you want and then go after it 110%.
So it can be a daunting process if you think too much about the gravity of the situation. Absolutely. So I'd say, even the longest journey starts with a single step. So, open the webpage and start reading. Make the first phone call to somebody who's been through the program. Make sure that you get a book and start reading about the GMAT if you're not comfortable with just taking it. So just start the baby steps toward the process, start talking about it and thinking about the process. Eventually you might get there.
Absolutely. Great. Great, thank you. And yeah, we are open to, if you don't know anyone who's been through the program, call me in Philly or Kathy Lilligren in San Francisco, and we'll connect you with someone who's been through it so you can get that shared perspective, because that is very important. All right, so I want to thank Christine and Caroline for being with us today and sharing this. I'm sure it was very much appreciated by those observing. We are going to have another webinar on Monday, the 17th, and that is going to feature Kathy Maloney, who is the Director of Admissions of East and West. And so we're going to just make that a nonstop information session on the application, the GMAT, sponsorship, you name it, anything that has to do with applying. We do have round 1 coming up December 2nd, and then round 2 February 10th. If you're ready to pull the trigger in December, great. If not, please don't fret. It's not going to squeeze you out. We want you to put together an application you're feeling comfortable with. All right, so we hope that you'll join us again online there. We have recorded this session, and we will let you know when it's available to observe. So thanks for spending your lunch hour with us.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks
very
for having
much.
us.
Everyone. Yeah.